Beautiful human beings, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Soul Speaks with Spack. In today's episode, we are going to be diving deep into the topic of trauma, specifically how it shows up in relationships, specifically how it blocks us from connecting with other human beings, most likely our intimate partners, our family, the people that are closest to us. So first thing I want to make clear is that I am not a trained therapist. This is not medical advice. I don't claim to know it all. I'm simply speaking from my own personal experiences and what has really helped me. So make sure you stick with me to the end because I'm going to be sharing some practical tips and practices that you can incorporate into your routine to start moving this trauma out, to start learning from it, to start freeing up space energetically within your body. Because when you do that, you open yourself up and allow in new and beautiful experiences. But on the other hand, when you hold on, when you repress, when you suppress, you create tension and resistance and stagnation within your body, which blocks you off from truly connecting with other people, and it blocks you off from allowing new and beautiful experiences into your life. So that is why releasing and letting go is important, is powerful. So today I'm going to share practices that you can use to start releasing and letting go and surrendering up that pain, that trauma, that tension. So first of all, the first place I want to begin is what trauma even is. So to me, what trauma is, it is the result of how we internalized an experience. So what does that mean? There is, I believe, big T trauma, and that could be a car accident, that could be sexual assault, that could be violence, that could be many different things. And then there's little T trauma, which could be getting cut off in traffic. It could be being yelled at by your boss. It could be anything, okay? So the reason it is important to know what the difference is because we all experience trauma throughout the course of our lives. And if the trauma is not processed, is not moved out of our body, it becomes buried within our body, okay? So there's a saying that goes, your issues are stored within your tissues. And I didn't realize how true this is and was until I started doing this work. I never realized that for the majority of my life, I had a lot of built up anger and resentment, and consciously I wasn't holding on to it, but physically in my subconscious mind, in my body, I was holding on to it. So now I want to invite you to drop into your body and notice if there are areas of tension and tightness within your body right now. How does it feel to be in your body? Do you feel like you can really be present in your body with the sensations, or is it too uncomfortable? Maybe there's pain there. Maybe there's tightness. Maybe there's discomfort. Maybe there's a level of fear. Maybe there's like a shortness of breath, like your breath is stuck in your throat, in your chest. You're not able to breathe fully and deeply. And if this is the case, that is a good sign that there are energetic blockages within your body. So now that I've briefly touched on what trauma is and the difference between big T and little t trauma, now what I believe is going to be really helpful for us is to understand emotions and the role that they play within trauma, and how we can understand our emotions to really connect with ourselves, with others in relationships, and to better understand the world. So at the core of it, what are emotions? Emotions are literally energy in motion. However, if we hold on, or if we repress and resist certain emotions, what does that cause within our body? That causes resistance. And what is resistance? Resistance is tension. So when we resist certain energy in motion, that creates tension, that leads to stagnation. And before we know it, if we make a habit out of this, if we make a habit out of repressing our emotions, if we make a habit out of holding on, then our body becomes blocked up and clogged up. And if you are familiar with the chakra system and the energy centers, we have our throat, we have our heart, we have our solar plexus, our belly, our pelvic floor, our sexual energy centers. We have these energetic centers, these points throughout our body. And if we are not allowing the energy to flow through our body, if we're not allowing that energy to move through our body, then we are going to become stagnant and stiff and tight in our body, which blocks us off from truly experiencing the richness of life. So a huge mindset shift around emotions that has changed a lot for me is letting go of the idea that there is a good and a bad and a right and wrong emotion, and realizing that I came here to this human experience to feel it all. There is a reason that I can feel a full spectrum of emotions. So if I resist or I suppress a particular emotion, then I am blocking off life force energy. I am blocking off the natural flow of life. So growing up, I resisted my anger. Growing up, I rejected my angry parts because I figured that that was unhealthy. I figured that that was wrong and bad, and no one likes an angry boy. And I didn't realize there were healthy outlets for me to express and move that anger out of my body. And what I realize now as well is that anger is an indication from my body that there is a boundary or a freedom. I like to refer to my boundaries as my freedoms that can be put in place. So when you tune into your physical body and you start allowing yourself to feel your emotions without judging yourself for feeling angry or feeling sad or feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, then you can start to tune in and understand your body and use your body as the tool that it is to make better decisions in your life, to incorporate boundaries, to incorporate freedoms, to incorporate different practices that allow you to be the best version of yourself. But the moment we try to reject our angry parts, the moment we try to reject our angry and our sad parts, is the moment we say that the truth of my body right now is not okay. Like, I'm not okay with this. And I just think that there is so much value within tuning into our bodies and noticing what is coming up and being able to use that as a tool to help us be the kindest, most caring, most successful, loving, happy, joyous version of ourselves, whatever that means to you. I believe there is incredible value in being attuned to our body, being in tune with our emotions, being able to communicate our emotions, understanding what we're feeling. This is how we connect with other people. And later in this episode, I'm going to dive into some practices and some communication techniques that you can use to better understand your emotions and how to communicate those so that you can start truly connecting with the people in your life that you care about, and even with strangers, right? Like, we want to be able to connect with other people and express ourselves truthfully and authentically. And in order for us to do that, we need to be attuned to our body. We need to be connected to our body, to our mind, to our soul. And this all comes through allowing ourselves to feel our emotions, to embrace our emotions, to embrace all of frickin' life. So more to come on that later in the episode. Now that we understand a little bit about emotions, let's talk about the relationship between emotions and trauma. When we experience trauma in our life, it doesn't matter if it's big T or little t trauma, we typically experience one or many intense emotions within a very sudden, unexpected moment. And if we do not take time after the traumatic event to process and feel and reflect on that experience, it is likely that that particular experience is going to be buried within our physical body, and off we go, continuing about our life unknowingly with this emotion that is stuck within our body. And this is impacting our ability to enjoy life. This is impacting our ability to connect with other people because we haven't taken the time to process and feel that emotion and release that emotion. So in a moment, I'm going to dive into what I believe is a 4-step framework to start processing and releasing our emotions. And I trust that this is going to be really helpful for you to start creating more space energetically within your body. Because if by now you don't understand that your emotions can be stored within your physical body if they're not felt and experienced and expressed and released, then now is the perfect time for you to get up to speed. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, we are energetic beings. Our body is like this physical energetic channel, and our emotions are the energy that is moving through our body. So if we are rejecting or repressing certain emotions because we think that they're bad or wrong or unhealthy, then understand these emotions are going to become buried within our body. And I believe from my own experience that these emotions are going to be driving the decisions that we make in our life. I'll give you an example of this. In my late teens and my early 20s, on the outside, I was a nice guy. But underneath the hood, I was a ticking time bomb. It was only a matter of moments before someone said something that really pissed me off, or someone cut me off in traffic. It was like the littlest things would lead to me exploding. Okay. And that was because I had so much buried anger. I had so much buried rage. And what I realized is that anger is a secondary emotion and sadness is a primary emotion. And so I realized that underneath all of this buried anger was sadness. And I also realized that because I hadn't allowed myself to communicate boundaries from the anger that I was feeling, and I just sucked it up and got on with it like a tough boy, I realized that I'd become disconnected from myself. And that anger was actually such a powerful thing for me to start feeling and understanding and learning from. So that is why it is so important for you to start allowing yourself to feel your emotions, to learn from your emotions, because your emotions are your greatest freaking teacher. I say this on my socials. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I talk a lot about emotions. And I'm passionate about this because growing up, I was kind of convinced, or I internalized, that it was weak to speak about emotions, and you got to be a tough boy and you've got to just move through life and get on with it. But I actually believe there is so much value in tapping into that. And that doesn't mean, especially if you're a man, it doesn't mean that you need to become soft and weak. No, in fact, I believe a man that is able to tap in and cultivate his emotional side and develop emotional sensitivity and awareness actually can be very firm and loving and kind and gentle and honest and truthful and fucking powerful. That is powerful, I believe. Whether you're a man or a woman, if you're in touch with your emotions in a healthy way, it's freaking magnetic. People love that shit. So this is why it is so important, I believe, for the fucking 20th time I've mentioned already on this podcast, to embrace your emotions. All right, let's freaking go. All right, so back to this. I've gone on a tangent here. I've gone on an absolute tangent, but I want to bring it back. When it comes to trauma, let's look to the wild, at the gazelles, the deer, the elk, the cheetahs, the lions, the hyenas. What differentiates us from these primal beings is that we have this neocortex, this rationalizing brain, and we make stories out of situations that have occurred. And these stories can be the thing that drives our life. But when you look at the gazelles and the cheetahs, when they experience trauma out there in the wild, they literally shake it off in their physical body. I've seen videos of gazelles that get attacked by a lion, but they escape and they just shake it off. Like their body just does the thing and they just allow their body to do the thing. But we sometimes don't allow our body to do its thing because we create stories. We give meaning to certain things and we hold on. And maybe we don't even consciously do that. We do that subconsciously. And I believe that this has a little bit to do with the fact that we think there is a good and a bad and a right and wrong emotion. If we reject certain emotions, then we don't allow ourselves to process that event. And this is how I believe trauma can continuously play out in our life after the initial event. If we still believe that we are broken, or that we are angry, or that anger is a bad emotion, then we can continue to manifest the same traumatic experience over and over again until we choose to take the lessons, the blessings, and the understanding from that experience and allow ourselves to let go of it. So here's the simple 4-step process that I want to share with you that has helped me start to feel my emotions and let go of them, which I believe has helped me create space within my body energetically to learn more, to do more, to feel more energized, to allow more beautiful experiences to come into my life, to connect with other people on a deeper level, because I've allowed myself to go to the depths of the darkness within myself. And as a result, that has allowed me to really connect with other people and to understand people on a deeper level, because I've gone to that place within myself. And there is a saying that goes, people can only meet you at the depths they've met themselves. So that is why now, for example, if I get a hate comment on one of my Instagram or my TikTok videos, I believe it really says more about that person than it does about me, okay? I'm not saying that they're wrong and I'm right. I'm not concerned about that. But I believe when someone has the energetic capacity or the time available to negatively comment on something that someone has put out there, then it says more about them than it does about the person that's put themselves out there. So that's just a thought there, and you know, you could disagree with me. And again, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to agree or disagree. I'm just here to share my heart, my wisdom, my energy with you. And I trust that you can feel that too. So here's the 4-step process. Step number 1 is to observe, is to witness. How about instead of getting caught up on, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling sadness, how about we let go of the labels and we notice what sensations are arising in our body? Just feel the sensations. There's another saying that goes, fear is excitement without the breath, which I truly believe, because there are times where I feel so much excitement and I've got to breathe into it and feel into it. And if I didn't breathe, then that could potentially be taken. I could internalize that as fear if I am not attuned, if I have not taken the time to understand myself and my emotions. So let's let go of good or bad or right or wrong or anger. Let's let go of all of the labels and let's witness the sensations that are coming up. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is to simply notice and acknowledge. Okay, I am feeling this sensation in my body right now. You've acknowledged that there is a sensation there. Okay, you've taken the time to feel it and acknowledge it. And then step 3 is to accept it, okay? I am accepting that this is my experience right now, because if I don't accept that I am feeling an intense sensation in my body right now, if I don't accept that, then there is resistance, there is tension, and that is going to perpetuate the situation. I believe it is less about the thing and about them and what they're doing and what they're saying, and more about my interpretation, my internal processing of that external experience. If I am resisting or really focused on them, I'm going to cause myself a lot of suffering. But when I can observe and witness and acknowledge and accept, this creates space and lightness. And then step number 4 is to learn. Okay, what is there to learn from this situation? What is my body trying to teach me in this situation? What is going on here? What is the bigger picture kind of meaning here? Is there something I can learn from this situation right now to strengthen the relationship and the love that I have toward myself and towards maybe the other person if there's someone else involved? This 4-step process, I believe, can help us understand ourselves better, connect with others deeper, and live in a more loving, kind, caring, open, and receptive way. So that's the 4-step process. Now what I want to dive into is some common practices and approaches that people take when it comes to processing trauma and their limitations, their flaws, and perhaps their benefits as well. So the first one that I want to talk about is talk therapy. I have a lot of people reaching out to me saying about how they've done years and years of talk therapy, but there still seems to be something that is blocking them. There's still something that they can't let go of. There's still something that is affecting their day-to-day life and impacting their relationship as well. And here's my take on talk therapy. I believe there are benefits. However, I also believe that it is very mind-based. It's going back to the past. It's trying to understand and process why we are the way that we are, or why someone might have acted the way that they did. And it's very up here, I believe. It doesn't really get into the heart. It doesn't get into the energetic channel that we are, our physical body. And this is where I believe it is a limited approach. And this is why I am very passionate about a mind, body, and soul approach. This is why I am passionate about a somatic approach. Okay, we have the soma, which is, you can think of the soma as the body, and we have the psyche. You can think of the psyche as the mind. And talk therapy, I believe, really only addresses the psyche. And this is why I believe a psychosomatic approach is the key, is really, really important. Okay, and so it is feeling, experiencing, moving, expressing, and introspection, understanding and processing and learning from the experience. This to me is a far more holistic approach to navigating through trauma. Okay, that is what I believe. And again, there's people that will disagree with me, and that is okay. So that is where I believe talk therapy is limited, okay? And that is why I also believe meditation is somewhat limited, because in a way you're kind of just observing your monkey mind, just observing the mind doing its thing. Whereas breath work, on the other hand, is a combination of the mind and the body. It is more of a psychosomatic practice, because you are using your breath consciously to move energy through your body. The breath is what I refer to as the bridge between the mind, the psyche, the conscious mind, and the body, the soma, the subconscious mind, where the trauma, where the wisdom is stored. And so by consciously using our breath, we can start to mobilize that stagnant energy, the energetic blockages. And this is why in intense breathwork sessions, you see people crying and releasing and feeling and grieving. And this is why after breathwork, you typically feel lighter, you feel energized, you feel like cathartic, like you feel like, whoa, like I just let go of a lot. And of course, there's many different practices and forms of breathwork, but this is why I believe breathwork is becoming so popular, and this is why I am incredibly passionate about breathwork. And this is why I teach it in all of my programs as well, because it is a holistic approach. It is a mind-body approach. And this is why I believe I've been able to get to where I am today, because I've developed this internal connection to my mind, to my body, to my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to refer to that as, without getting too deep and esoteric and freaking woo-woo spiritual. Like, just genuinely, like, you can see in those videos, the transformational videos that I share, when I was living very poorly, I wasn't healthy at all. I wasn't allowing myself to feel things. I was really just stuffing a lot of stuff into my body. And you can almost see this disconnection, like my eyes. They say the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And if you look at those videos of me back in the day when I was drinking heavily, it was like the lights were on, but no one was home. I mean, the lights were hardly even on. Like, looking into my eyes, it's like there's a human there, but the human doesn't look conscious at all. Whereas now it's like my eyes are freaking vibrant and alive and healthy. Like, I believe that the eyes never lie. That is another saying. I've dropped so many freaking sayings on this episode, but the eyes never lie. You can really tell, I believe, how alive and vibrant and healthy someone is through their eyes. So again, when it comes to practices, I believe that talk therapy is simply just mind-based and it is limited, whereas breath work, for example, is more of a mind-body approach. It really gets into the nervous system. It gets into the physical body. It starts to mobilize and move that energy through the body. And then you feel those buried, stagnant, stuck emotions, and you can experience them and you can take time to reflect and learn from them. And in a way, then you've moved that trauma out of your body, I believe, which allows you to feel lighter, which allows you to be more connected to yourself and develop more self-love. Like when you allow yourself to feel, when you allow yourself to be with yourself, with the sensations in your body, that is such a simple yet powerful form of self-love and self-care, right? We think we need the perfect exercise routine and the diet and all of these things, but have you ever allowed yourself to simply be with yourself, to simply feel your inner experience? Like, what if that was the simplest but most powerful self-love practice there was? And you didn't really need so many freaking practices and things to be successful and happy. Like, what if you were just able to allow yourself to be here right now, to be a full fuck yes to this moment here and now? To wrap this episode up, as promised, I want to share a couple resources, some books that I have read that I have found to be fantastic. And I haven't finished all of these, so I'm not going to pretend that I have. These are just books that I've started reading and taken little bits of wisdom and knowledge from. One of those is The Body Keeps the Score. I can't remember the author. Another one is Waking the Tiger or Walking the Tiger by Peter Levine. I can't remember exactly whether it's Waking or Walking the Tiger. Now, another amazing human is Gabor Mate. There's an amazing podcast he has with Joe Rogan. He dives deep into trauma and how up until 7 years old, we are just sponges. We just absorb everything in our outer environment. And it's super wild, some of the things that he talks about in that podcast episode. Just in Bali, for example, I believe they have a tradition where, for maybe, I could be totally wrong here, but maybe the first 7 months or a year or something, they don't actually put the baby's feet on the floor. They hold the baby the whole time. And another thing that he said on that podcast episode was that as babies, when a baby comes out and a baby is crying, that is essential to hold that baby and be like, you are safe, you are held. Okay. And I'm not a parent yet myself, and I'm not judging any parents, but I believe that there is an idea that you should train your baby to get over it and to self-regulate and to navigate through that themselves, which I think can be beneficial, but maybe later on in life. I believe in those, like, especially within the first year or within like at least the first 3 months, like if a baby is crying, I believe that's an opportunity. Like that's like, hold it, like be there. Like, yeah, at least for me, that's the way that I plan to parent is you're safe, you're loved, I'm here for you. And my parents have told me stories when I was a little baby about when I was crying hysterically and my mum wanted to go in, right? That is a natural instinct. But my dad put his foot on the door and is like, you can't go in. Like, he's got to navigate through that himself. And when I first heard that, I felt like, what the fuck? I felt like that was wrong. However, at the same time, I can understand why they may have thought that that was the best approach. And I'm still not going to say that they're wrong and I'm right. I'm not really concerned about that. But at least I believe the way that I want to parent is to just hold my baby, to be there at all times. And as they grow up, to help them develop and regulate their emotions themselves. So that podcast is amazing. I'd recommend checking out Gabor Mate. Those are a couple book recommendations. There's other ones. If you want more of them, just reach out, because I'm not going to go through a huge list right now. I can't really think of any more off the top of my head. But in terms of practices that you can use to start feeling your emotions, processing trauma. I believe a psychosomatic approach is really important, like I've dived into in this episode. And of course, breath work is a practice. There's many different practices that you can use. Some people like to use EDMR, like some people like to use tapping, and many different practices. Okay, for me and my clients, breath work has been the most transformational. Like it's changed my life completely, and it's maybe not the best thing for everyone. Okay, so I think it's important to be open to different practices and to also remember that these are just tools. Okay, the most important work is done in your moment to moment experience. Okay, when someone cuts you off in traffic, are you gonna wind down your window and retaliate and go off, or are you gonna take a moment to breathe and to feel and to center yourself and respond? Okay, respond or react. These moment-to-moment experiences are what really shape our character. And you can do as much breath work and meditation as you want, but these are the moments that really count, in my opinion. So I'm going to wrap this episode here. I've shared some practices, some tips. We've dived into trauma. We've dived into emotions. And this, of course, is something that I can turn into a little bit of a series, depending on if you've got more questions, if there's other things that you want me to dive deeper into. You know what to do. Let me know in the comments. Feel free to reach out on my social channels if you have any questions. And so remember, depending on what platform you are tuning in from, if you're on Spotify, remember to follow the show, give it a rating, share it with a friend, share it on your social media. If there's something that you've learned today, pop it on your social media. Give me a shout. I would love to see and hear what you are taking away from the show. And of course, if you're on YouTube, remember to subscribe, leave a comment, leave any questions you have down below. And I appreciate you being here. So this wraps this episode of Soul Speaks with Spack. Until next time, have an amazing day wherever you are in the world. Venture beyond limitation. Let's go. Hurrah!